are back with
Messy on Purpose.
I almost said it, and she would have been mad at me. Okay. And we have a special guest here today.
It's my big brother.
And we're gonna dive into some family ties, what led him into what he does for a living, and we're gonna start it off by letting him introduce himself.
For all of you, my name is Jay. I'm Heather's big brother. Any of you guys that may have listened to what I understand is the previous podcast where some things came up, we had a fairly tumultuous childhood, and because of that, I went into the military. I spent 13 months. This is a short version, but I spent 13 months in Iraq working in an emergency room. Came back home with some pretty ugly issues. Didn't know how to deal with them. Mixed that with childhood trauma. And I discovered that a really good way to handle it was to drink and use drugs in as big a portion as I could possibly figure out, until I ended up with a .427 blood alcohol level one night, and realized that the only thing that was going to help was to seek out some help and some treatment, even though it's maybe the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, asking for help, which I'm sure is a topic we'll get into a little bit here. But I finally met with a therapist, started dealing with my addiction, PTSD issues, and then Heather is actually the reason I'm in the field that I'm in now. I don't know if she's talked about it on here, but she used to be she was an addiction nurse at a facility where her and her ex-husband worked, and I was out here helping her raise her kids, sort of, and I didn't have anything I was doing, so she said, we have a job at the facility that I think you would be perfect for. It's basically a job where you just interact with people going through exactly what you went through. I didn't have anything to do, so I gave it a shot and loved it from the very first day I did it. So I've been doing addiction work for the last 8 years. I'm now what's known as a peer support, sort of an addiction counselor. I work directly with clients, and only people who have a history of addiction or mental health can work the job, and I've been doing that for the last few years. And so essentially my day-to-day job is to do what I guess has been going on here for the last couple episodes. So yeah, that's basically what brings me here. And I was in town visiting Heather and all the little ones, and so we thought it might be fun to sit down and pick at some old scabs for a little while.
It's been a little bit since we've actually had somebody else on too, so it's kind of nice to have a different face, a different story.
I mean, not that face.
Oh, awesome. All right, I'm going to see myself out.
I was actually going to segue before he got started, and then I wanted him to do his introduction, but I think it was really good timing for this to happen because we have discussed some really personal stuff over the past couple podcasts with my childhood, and he was a part of that. So he got to live all the glory with me.
Yeah, I mean, it was especially difficult for us because I don't know how much you've gotten into.
I'm sorry that my dog keeps bumping everything.
We've got an extra cast member right now, but
she wants to be on the podcast.
One of the harder elements of our childhood was how much we moved, and due to the fact that we moved so much, me and Heather are separated by a year, which meant, the 50 times we started new schools. Anybody that's ever started a new school knows that the first couple of weeks are treacherous. You don't know anybody. You don't know where you're allowed to sit. You don't know who you're supposed to stand next to in PE. So what's going to happen? Obviously, when I'm 9 and she's 8 and we don't have anybody else to lean on, we ended up leaning on each other. And we developed a very close relationship because there were literally times in our childhood where the only person that I had that I could count on was her, and vice versa. I mean, we spent a ton of time together. I mean, it's kind of one of those necessity situations. Like you wanna go out and play. Well, like we joke all the time. There are 3 movies that I can't stand: Pretty Woman, Grease, and Dirty Dancing. Because when she wanted someone to watch a movie with, I was the one that was going to get stuck watching the movie with her. and she also got dragged outside to play basketball
And
and
hold
army
pillows
all the
for
time.
Karate Kid.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's an interesting relationship. I'm glad to see where she is right now and what she's doing with this. I uh, give myself a little pat on the back. I've been telling her for what 4 years that she needed to start doing something like this. So I'm happy to see you guys
Well,
actually doing
Felicia's
this.
the one that like actually started this and
Made
gave me
you?
the kick in the butt.
I'm one of those people. I got an idea. I got to just
Yeah.
Do
put it into action. And
But you saying that, Jay, what it reminds me of is being in the military. You have your war buddies, right? Where you have a relationship with certain people because they've been through these traumatic experiences that nobody else is going to understand. It's like from what we have gone through, it's like we're war buddies. Like nobody else. We had this discussion in the car the other day. Like me and you both could sit down and write out our childhood, and it'd be different versions
Yeah.
because I've suppressed things, you've suppressed things, but at the end of the day, we're really the only people that know what we went through.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to kind of phrase it in a way that makes any sense, but using the military analogy, I tell people all the time, Iraq and boot camp, I look at them the same way. They're both things that I absolutely miss. I made some of the best friends in my life. I have some of my fondest memories from being in Iraq and in boot camp. But if somebody asked me if I wanted to do it again, I'd tell them to go to hell because it was so horrible. So you find yourself dealing with this. I think that probably goes for any kind of traumatic situation. Like when you have something that digs into you that deep, it leaves good parts and bad parts. I mean, that's the reason people end up with Stockholm syndrome. Otherwise, people wouldn't fall in love with their captors. Like you start to have you
Romanticize in a way.
romanticize certain elements of these bad situations, and when you're
you're adapting
camping,
to survive.
yes,
That's really what it
absolutely.
comes down to in any situation.
And what's unfortunate is when you're a kid, you don't know that you're adapting to survive. You believe that this is normal for everybody.
Yeah.
We had multiple times where people would say things about us and we would be baffled. Like, this isn't, you guys don't deal with this? Like,
Yeah.
this isn't normal? I thought everybody lived like this.
Yeah, I learned a lot of things as you get older. Like that wasn't
That wasn't normal.
Like, wait a minute, you didn't experience this?
Yeah, because you just assume that everybody in the world has the same reality that you have, especially as a child. Like, this is what people go through when they're at home. People, other kids worry about where their next meal is coming from or whatever, and that's just not the case.
Mhm.
Or like when you move out of like an area. I know you guys moved a lot, but so
Mhm.
that's a little different. But like I grew up my whole life in the Midwest.
Mhm.
When you move out of that area and you start experiencing
like-
new people and new places, like the change and the things that like people don't understand that you went through and you don't understand that they went
Mhm.
through, or you meet people in like higher classes
Mhm. Yeah.
that had nannies
Yeah.
and had a whole different life,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, we had a weird paradox in our childhood, especially when we were in high school. I'm sure you remember this. We got made fun of in high school. They used to call us the Brady Bunch because from the outside we looked like we had everything locked up and in order. We had both of our parents in the house. We had what you would consider to be the absolute essential nuclear family: two girls, one boy, two parents still in the household. So from the outside, we looked like we were kind of your all American middle class family, and we were going to a school in the Midwest with a bunch of kids that came from broken homes. Some of them had never met their father. Some of them had physically abusive parents, and they see us.
They'd be like, "You're so lucky."
Yeah. And that makes it worse because then, you're having a bad day, something terrible happens at home that's got you all wrecked emotionally, and then someone starts lecturing you about how lucky you are, and then you start questioning yourself. Like, am I just being really spoiled and like awful, and I'm not thinking about how horrible other people have it?
Well, everyone's fighting a different battle.
Mhm.
Like it doesn't matter where you grew up, how you grew up, the parents you had. Everyone has their own little battles, and nobody realizes that as a kid. They can only think about
Yeah.
themselves. So like people express themselves that way, thinking that their life is and other
Mhm.
people's is perfect, but they don't really actually know. And as kids, I think we're not experienced enough to understand at that time.
Hmm.
So it makes it really hard, and then it confuses other kids because they're looking at it this way, you're looking at it this way, like
Mhm.
Yeah, it's the Thanksgiving dinner paradox. Like everybody has experienced. You grow up, your Thanksgiving dinner in your house is done one way. Like you
mhm.
know that you like your mashed potatoes this way because your mom's done it since you were a year old.
Or you
Uh,
hate Thanksgiving
yeah,
because the
Yeah.
food
yeah.
sucks.
And then you go to someone else's house, like maybe your fiance or you got some significant other, or you go to dinner with friends, and their Thanksgiving dinner is completely different,
Chinese
and
food.
you're completely thrown off
Oh,
because
must be great compared to the white
yeah,
trash stuff I grew up on.
but your perception has been this one thing, and so you thought, well, that must be what everybody does. That's how everybody does their Thanksgiving. Then you find out it's not even remotely true.
She's just rolling around under the table. I wish you could see this.
Oh
Nala, Jesus. Can you please go away?
Nala's like, we're not talking about trauma today.
You know, she wants nothing to do with us when it's just me and Heather, but now that
she
you're here,
really
it's like,
doesn't.
yeah, she's like, oh, there's a dude here. I want your attention, like, now. Oh, anyway, sorry.
But
Not
yeah.
She's
to
cool.
interrupt you.
She's cool.
No, that for me, I find it really interesting because I think the traumas that you go through in childhood, it either it can take you one of two ways where you don't want to have anything to do with it and you just try to go off on your own and pretend none of it existed and bury it deep down and go on with your life, or you take the position like he's taken where it's like, hey, shoot, like I've been through this. I want to help other people that have been through this, and have these experiences because I can truly put myself in those shoes and understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, but it also took me time to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I went the same route. I mean, I wouldn't have started drinking if it hadn't been for the fact that I was trying to bury
Yeah.
things that I wasn't ready to accept, deal with, process.
Mm-hmm.
Like I told you last night, it took getting into this peer support job before I really was able to start working through some of my stuff because talking about it every single day to other people and relating my situation to them as a way to empathize with what they're going through started giving me answers and clarity on things that had baffled me for 35 years,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
things that I didn't have answers to until I had to start doing the math by using someone else's situation to help me understand mine.
And isn't that amazing as two people that were raised in the same household and had those same kind of experiences, what's helped heal you is like helping other people. And it took me going through some even more tough situations in my adult life and reaching out for help myself and going to therapy and like having to talk about certain things that I didn't want to talk about. But I really do want to touch on the addiction because we were having this conversation about addiction playing out in so many different
Mm-hmm.
ways. We typically think drugs and alcohol. There's the top addictions: cigarettes, drugs, alcohol, and you get more into gambling, pornography, shopping. Like, there's so many different ways that people try to fill those voids inside of them and push down, the pain and the hurt.
Well, there's multiple elements to this that people don't think about on a daily basis. Like we have movies and television that paint a picture of what addiction is.
Mm-hmm.
You hear addiction, you instantly think of somebody on a street corner
Mm-hmm.
asking for change because they want to go get a drink.
Mm-hmm.
What I tell my clients all the time, uh, addiction, and this is for anybody listening to this, if you take one thing away from this, if you're dealing with any problems, please remember this. Addiction is not the problem. Addiction is how we try to solve the problem. For most of us, trauma is why we end up in addiction. We're trying to solve something that we're dealing with on a lower level. And the way that we figure out to solve it is to bury it. I showed Heather this guy a couple of nights ago. His name is Gabor Mate. He's an addiction psychologist. And he says all addiction, no matter what it is, alcohol, heroin, gambling, eating,
Shopping.
all of it can be broken down into two categories. It's that simple. You're either using to start feeling something or you're using to stop feeling something. That's what it all comes down to. And the more I've done this job, the more I started realizing it's absolutely true. People wouldn't relapse. Like, there's a common misconception that the reason we're addicted, like the reason I was addicted to alcohol is because I was chemically and physically addicted to alcohol. Well, no, people wouldn't relapse if that was the case, because once it's out of your system, if you go through a rehab facility, 30 days in a rehab facility, in most cases, you're in better physical condition than you've been in 15 years.
Well, a lot of it's because people base it off of just the general detox that it takes to get off of it. That's where they attach that addiction.
Well, and there are a lot of ugly misconceptions among, and this isn't to say that people are actively trying to be nasty. We've been fed these very ugly narratives about addiction. Like, I've talked to my clients so many times. Every single person who's ever dealt with an addiction issue has heard the same question from a friend or a family member. And it doesn't mean they're trying to be mean. It doesn't mean they don't care about them. It's just how our brains work. Everyone has heard, why can't you just stop? And for most of us, we don't even know how to answer that question. Like, we don't know why we can't stop, because we don't even know why we're doing it in the first place. And the family member is just as baffled. They're genuinely asking the question because to them, it doesn't make any sense. Like, there's a story, you will not remember this, but I've used it in my groups over and over because it kind of paints a picture of exactly what we're talking about. We went out to dinner one time when I was here. I had come back for a visit, and we went out to dinner, and Heather got a glass of wine. She got some alcohol. I don't remember what it was.
Ooh.
No,
So
she got some alcohol, and for those of you who don't know, my sister has an incredibly low tolerance for any altering substance. So we're sitting there eating, and she gets about halfway through her drink, and she pushed it across the table for a busboy to pick it up. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And she goes, "I'm done." I was like, "No, you're not. Like, there's still half a glass there." To her, she didn't want any more because she didn't want to feel that anymore. To me, because of what I went through and the way my brain works, I was like, how could you leave half a glass of alcohol? Like, you're supposed to finish that. If it was me, I would have already been halfway through that one, ordering the next one. And that's when I realized, oh my God, like we were saying before, perception is 9/10 of your reality. Like, to her, she's like, why would anybody drink more than one glass of wine? I mean, I don't even understand that. To me, I'm like, why would anybody stop at one glass of wine? I don't understand that.
But that being said, we come from a family that struggles
Oh,
with
yeah.
addictive personalities. We've talked about it on the podcast.
Oh, I come from
Fylisha
it too.
has
I don't have it, but my
personality.
families do.
Yeah.
They're addicted to alcohol, pills. I mean,
And that's how I
gambling.
Yeah, that's how I initially got into it. Was we had personal experience with it, and it was like, all right, this is something that I feel like I'll be able to empathize with people. I didn't think I had addictions until I started working addiction and teaching classes, and it was like codependency, an addiction, like doing shopping, an addiction, like anything that you're doing to fill the void that you have inside of you. And I was like, dang. So for him, it was drugs and alcohol. For me, it was like, I need other people. I need validation and attention and love from other people. That was my biggest issue. And I honestly didn't know I feel like I was very lack in knowledge on addiction, because a lot of the stuff that we see now that are rising higher than drugs and alcohol is like people with their phones,
pornography,
social media, video games and computers for our young people. Like the numbers and statistics are faster rising than drugs and alcohol amongst like our generation and older generations.
And fun fact, you said you have a history of addiction in your family. Here's one of those terrifying little facts that's come out in the last few years through studies. People who have a history of addiction in their family are 40 times more likely to have an addiction issue of their own. When I heard that, it was like harrowing. Like,
so that's where it comes in, and this is the whole like chicken egg debate is. And we talked about this when I worked at the facility and you worked at the facility, are you an addict because it's a genetic predisposition where it's been passed down in your bloodline? Or
Or
is
is it
this
because
the
it's what you
coping
saw?
skills that were used by everybody in your family? So that's what you've learned on how to deal with trauma and stuff, as opposed to getting help and doing whatever it is to heal those hurts. You put those things into place.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically nature versus nurture.
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing it because it was in your blood, or are you doing it because it's all you
learned.
saw in your house for your
I think
entire
I think it's
childhood?
definitely more of like your experiences that
Mhm.
cause it
Mhm.
more than genetics, because genetics is telling you it's something you can never stop, and that's
Mhm.
not true, because people can fix that.
Mhm.
They can, and it's not easy. I'm not saying
Yeah.
like you can't just stop, but like it is something you can fix. So that's why like I feel like labeling it as a genetic
Yeah,
is
'cause
telling you your
genetics-
fate.
Yeah, genetics is more, this is going to be your hair color, your skin color, your
Yeah,
eye color.
permanent.
But that being said, one of the I say that multiple times during every podcast.
I'm really proud of you. That was amazing.
I've only said it once. One of the classes that I taught to our detoxers was a class about PAWS, post-acute withdrawal syndrome, where I lean more to what you guys are saying, where I feel like it's a learned behavior as opposed to something that's passed down to you. It's passed down to you, but
In a
not through
different way.
DNA.
It's not
It's
genetic.
passed down through behaviors and learned, like, this is what my family does. After you've developed the addiction, then it does rewire your brain and how you react to things. And you can still change that. You can still rewire it.
That's why I don't
the
like
way
to
was
label
supposed
it
to
as
be.
like a fate. Because
Mhm.
like you said, eye color, hair color,
Mhm.
that is things that we can't change.
Yeah.
That's genetic.
Mhm.
Addiction isn't genetic.
Mhm.
Well, I would say I agree with you guys 80% of the way.
Mhm.
The 20% that I would push back on is recently. What is it? 5 years ago now, the DSM just put out the DSM-5.
Mhm.
It's the new mental health manual. They are now qualifying addiction as a disease. It is a mental health disease.
Mhm.
Now, so when I talk to my clients about it, I treat it like diabetes. Like, I believe there is a genetic element to it. I believe that, if you got 6 generations of your family that have been uh, addicted to a substance, there's probably something mental involved, something psychological that's causing part of that. I do agree there is a bootstrap element to it. I believe, in fact, I tell my clients, the only person that can make you stop using is you.
Mhm.
Like, you can't rely on YouTube videos. You can't rely on, your best friend who pats you on the back and tells you good job. You can't rely on the boyfriend that is sometimes there for you and sometimes not. But what I mean by the diabetes thing is, like, there are a lot of people who live with diabetes and don't know it and are dealing with weight fluctuation issues and really poor health. They can go get that fixed, but not everybody does because they don't want to. So I see it a little bit of both. Like, I think
But
it's
diabetes can either be genetic or developed
Or
Yes.
too.
developed.
So now
Oh,
now we're looking at two factors there.
to be fair, I 100% agree. There are, I believe there are people in both camps. I believe there are people who are genetically predisposed to using, and I believe there are people who pick it up and just never put it back down. I've seen both of them. Like, I would actually put myself into a little bit of that former category. I mean, not to get too much into it, but we have multiple family members in our family who have shot multiple other family members while on drugs and alcohol. Like, it's to the point in our family where we don't really flinch when we find out something like that happened because it's been going on for so long. One of the things I tell my clients all the time, Heather can back me up on this because it sounds crazy. I didn't have my first drink of alcohol till I was 22 years old. Like, I didn't. Another science fact that's real fun is 90% of addiction starts in the teenage years. Most people who have drug and alcohol addictions, you start when you're 14, 15. You're at a party, somebody hands you a red Solo cup. You don't want to look stupid in front of your friends, so you take the beer even though you don't like the way it tastes. Pretty soon, 3 years down the road, now you love the way it tastes. Now you're asking about other stuff that they have. I absolutely believe that both are 100% true.
You saying the genetic predisposition, I agree with the element that I think, and because of our familial history, genetically things that are passed down are mental health
Yes.
issues. Bipolar,
Yeah,
narcissism,
I'm
schizophrenia,
to be
those
clear, that's what I
things.
mean. I don't, like I
Yeah.
said, addiction is not the problem. Addiction is the solution to the
Hmm.
problem. I believe that the mental health element of
Yeah.
addiction
So if
is
the
what's
mental health
genetic.
is being passed down to your
Hmm.
children and their children, and they don't know how to cope with it, the addiction being the thing that family members have turned to, whatever the addiction
Yeah.
is, that in fact gets passed down.
Hmm. Yeah, just to be clear, that I'm not saying that you pop out of.
Alcoholism, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you pop out of the womb asking for a heroin
Yeah.
needle. I think there are mental health elements of addiction
Hmm.
that lead you. Like I tell my clients, it's like I look at it like a light switch in your head.
Hmm.
Uh, there are people who grew up never using drugs and alcohol. Maybe you were in church all your life, so you never tasted alcohol. So you never find out that you're absolutely obsessed with alcohol. So that switch never goes into the on position. You never end up dealing with it at all. But like myself, 21 years of my life, I didn't know I liked alcohol. And then in year 22, I got on a cruise ship, got so drunk that I literally burned my taste buds from throwing up. Heather was there. It was my very first
A
time
shining
drinking.
moment.
My very first time drinking. I mean, I had never tasted alcohol. I got blackout drunk on a cruise ship and had to sleep for like 2 days to sleep it off. You would think if that was your first experience with alcohol, you'd be like, you know what, maybe this isn't
Not
for
doing
me.
that
Like
again.
maybe this is
Yeah.
not a good idea. But that's not the direction I went. I took my break, but
Don't you also feel that being in a situation, because like some of the stories that which you obviously don't have to share on here, but like things that happen in Iraq and stuff, it's like that also flips a trigger inside you where it's like alcohol is the thing that's going to take away from this. Like
oh,
it
absolutely.
could be that you didn't even, somebody out there could have tried alcohol and be like, it's not for me, and never picked it back up, but then go through something traumatic and become a raging alcoholic.
Yeah, you're talking about a coping mechanism.
Hmm.
It's absolutely for people a coping mechanism. Like uh, the example that I use a lot, and it's a lot easier to talk about now than it was when it happened. But I don't think you ever met him, but you knew of him. I
Hmm.
had I had 7 guys that I went through AIT with our training in the military. We all went through it together. It was a very small class. Then they, in some weird thing that never happens, they sent all 7 of us to the same duty station, and we ended up spending the next 4.5 years together. This kid, I won't say his name on here, but this kid was like my little brother. He was 17 when he joined. I basically held this kid's hand through training in his first year in the military because we called him the buffoon. Like he was always getting in trouble because he just didn't think about things, and he would do really dumb stuff. So I was always kind of like, hey, let me stay with me. I'll keep you out of trouble. So he was my roommate in Iraq. Then he was my roommate when I came back. He was literally family to me, closer to me than some of my actual family members. And then 8 months ago, I hadn't heard from him for a couple of months, and one of our mutual friends from our unit that went to Iraq called me, and I could tell something was wrong as soon as I answered the phone. And she said, "Listen, I just thought it should be me that let you know." And she informed me that they had found him dead in his apartment after a fentanyl overdose. He had been there for 4 days before anybody noticed that he was gone. And so here's what immediately happens to my brain. I had 2 things happen almost instantaneously. The first was I felt like a failure twice over. I failed him as a friend because I wasn't able to help him. I had spent the last year trying to get him off of drugs and trying to get him to come out and move in with me. So I failed him as a friend and like a pseudo family member. And then secondly, I failed him as a professional because what is my job? I spend all day trying to help people get over drugs and alcohol, and I wasn't able to do it for this person that's super close to me. So what do? I hang up the phone, and the very first thought that shot through my head before I even had time to process what I had just heard, the very first thought I had was I need to go find a bar and I need to get blackout drunk. And I had to I couldn't believe how fast it hit me. And I was like, "Oh my god." Even after all these years of not doing that, it's still the very first place my mind goes when there's any kind of traumatic situation. And that's not just drugs and alcohol. Like I mean, I don't know your background, but everybody's got some trauma in their life, and unfortunately, we all have these triggers that get permanently connected to that trauma. The example I always use is, let's say you were in I apologize. This is a dark, and I apologize for anybody watching this that might get triggered, but it's the only example that everybody can kind of picture in their head. Imagine if you were in an abusive relationship for 5 years. This guy was horrible to you. I mean, every time he came home and he was mad about something, he would put his hands on you. And so for 5 years, you feel like you don't deserve anything better. So you stay in this relationship. He's got you so beat down that you can't stand up for yourself. Finally, after 5 years, somebody is able to get through to you and they tell you, you don't have to be in this anymore. So you stand up for yourself. You wait till he's out working one day and you leave the house. You pack up all your stuff. You go stay with your mom. 2 years later, you've gotten your life together. You know, you're doing your own thing. You got a job, you got an apartment, and you meet Mr. Right. Mr. Right is this amazing guy. He brings you flowers. He tells you you're pretty. He's always saying the right thing. He texts you in the morning. He shows up when you get off work and offers you a ride home. Your family all love him. So you move in together. Now we're 3 years away from this horrible relationship that you had. You guys have never gotten into an argument. He's never raised his voice at you or done anything. And then one night, you're living together. Somebody didn't wash the dishes. And so here we are. We're having our first real, relationship spat. And he's upset. He's not meaning it to be about you because to him, it doesn't even seem like that big a deal. He's standing there. He raises his voice and he does this with his hands because he's just so frustrated. What's the first thing that's going to go through your head if you spent 5 years in an abusive relationship when you see him put his hands up like that? You're going to think you're about to get hit, right? It's got nothing to do with him. It's got nothing to do with anything he's ever done to you, but you now have a trigger hardwired into your brain that if a man in my life raises his hand in a certain way, I'm about to get hit. And it doesn't matter what your trauma is. If you were in a car accident, you're going to have triggers from that. If your tires hydroplane a little bit, your brain's going to go, oh my God, we're about to get in a car wreck again. And you're going to have responses to that. It's one of the things that I'm really adamant about with my clients is you have to start to understand you are going to have these for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever your trauma was, you're not just going to figure it out.
I gotta disagree because I've worked through a lot of mine and I've actually stopped. I don't really have any triggers anymore. My mindset is completely different. I have a very solid foundation. I don't let anything get to me anymore. I've cut out anyone who has been a problem. Like I have literally worked through, I mean, even conversations we talked about last time. So I used to not be able to have conversations. Now I will start hard conversations because I'm going to work through it, whether it's awkward, whether it sucks. But before I would shut down, I wouldn't talk anything at all. So I've worked through to the point where now I'm perfecting things like little annoyances that I do.
Yeah. No,
so I wouldn't say it's permanent. It doesn't always have to be.
What you're saying is absolutely true. You're talking about a trigger response. You're talking about how you respond to it. Like in my case, I'll give you an example. It's dark, and it took me years to be able to talk about this without turning into a puddle of goo. But while I was in Iraq, I gotta keep the details very vague here. But we had a young person, a teenager, get hit by shrapnel and went into his brain. And they brought him to our emergency room. And this kid didn't die right away. We had him on a morphine drip, and he survived for almost 6 hours. And part of my job in the emergency room was once an hour, I would have to do rounds around the ICU, and I would write the report that went back to DOD about what was going on with each person in the emergency room. So for 6 hours, I had to walk through this emergency room, and every hour on the hour, this kid would grab me by the arm, start crying, and ask me if I could get his mom for him because he didn't want to die. Now, I can tell you that stays with you. But I have learned how to process that trigger when it happens. The trigger is still there. Like something can happen. Do you know what heightened startle response is? It's an element of PTSD. A loud bang sets you off. I'll never get rid of heightened startle response. You drop a pan behind me, like all the kids know. The first thing that happens if they pop a balloon or drop a pan, the
Mhm.
first thing you hear out of their mouth when I'm visiting is sorry, Uncle Jay. And I can't get rid of that trigger. But what I have done through like what you're talking about, years of therapy and working through it, is when I first started dealing with it, it would crush me for hours. Like somebody would slam a door behind me and I'd be like a quivering mess and I'd be at my apartment. My blood pressure would be through the roof. I'd be crying. I'd be shaking. My first instinct would be to get a drink because a drink is going to calm me down. And that would go for like 3 or 4 hours. Now, recently at my facility, we're closing our facility down. So we've been packing everything up. A guy I've been working with, he dropped a pan in the kitchen. I mean, it was a good one. It lifted me off my feet for a second. I started shaking. My blood pressure went through the roof. But now, because of all the therapy and being actively aware of the fact that it's there, I know what's happening. I can't stop it 100% from happening, but I know how to process it and how to move through it. So that 3 hour thing now is like a 5 minute thing. I go outside, I take a couple of laps, I work on my breathing, and after a few minutes, it happened in the movie theater. There was a scene in that movie that fired me up, and I had to start. I was sitting there next to you, going, and I had to just let it pass. But when you don't know, I think the middle ground between what you're saying and what I'm saying is when you don't know what it is, it's terrifying. Like when you don't know what's happening to you and why your body is reacting a certain way and why your brain just went to this place, it's overwhelming. Like you don't know how to react to it, you don't know how to respond to it, and you feel like what is going on with me? Like why is this happening? And then you start doing therapy and stuff and you start realizing, oh, okay, there's some ways for me to walk through this and get to the other side. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I didn't mean that like you stay in that one position forever. Some people do because they don't ever get any help. Our grandfather is a prime example of that. He was a World War II veteran. He didn't believe in going to the doctor for something that you could drink your way through. So he just dealt with PTSD his whole life. And so he had those issues forever. I think I have a lot of issues with modern society. I think we've gotten way too technological and we're all way too interconnected, and social media is a problem for our young people. But one thing I do have to say is really good right now is how focused everybody is on mental health. I think it can go overboard sometimes, but I think the focus on mental health has been really good for people like myself, people who come from domestic violence or abusive homes, like people who spent the first years of their life being terrified of telling someone what they experienced because one, people are going to know, two, they might think you're crazy, three, it makes you look weak. Like there's a whole series
Or
of
you
things that
have
go through your
outside
head.
people telling you
Yeah, oh
not
yeah,
to talk about it or
absolutely.
not to get therapy. So having the support of people being like, "Hey, do what you have to do to heal."
I mean, let's face it, admitting to any kind of trauma is one of the hardest things in the world to do. Like I tell my clients, the hardest part of going to rehab is asking for help because our brain tells us, I could figure this out on my own. Like I just need a little bit more time and I'll solve the problem on my own.
Yeah.
But we don't. We just keep walking into the same doorknob over and over.
Yeah.
Well, change is hard for people, and that requires change. It requires you to change the way you think,
Mindset.
what you do.
Yeah.
It requires you to make all these changes, and like that is the most terrifying thing for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And I think that one of the things that I've focused on is, man, once you start looking at some of the things that you need to change, it unravels a whole lot of other things. Then you've got a whole ball of yarn and you're sitting in front of you of like, man, I thought I was good on this, but once you start addressing one thing that you're like, all right, I want to work on this and change this, kind of has a ripple effect, right? Where it's like, man, this also affects this and this affects this. And then you're like, dang.
Well, yeah, it's Jenga.
Yeah.
You take out one piece and the entire thing
Waiting
comes
for the thing
toppling
to
down.
fall down, yeah.
And usually it's because we create a false structure inside our head. Oh, I've got everything together. I mean, I'm doing this and I'm holding this together with a toothpick and duct tape, but it's holding the structure together, and you never stop to think all it's going to take is somebody pulling one piece. Like that's what happened to me when my therapist started asking me certain questions.
Yes.
Like I was like, I don't think I want to do this. Like this isn't fun anymore.
I can say that obviously I've had physical pain in this life, giving birth to 10-pound baby with no medicine was painful. I've dealt with some painful stuff in life, but going through therapy and having them start asking you questions like about your childhood and stuff, that is probably the most painful experience I've ever had in this life, just because it required, if you're open to it and you actually want to change things, it's like, oh my gosh, like there's things I didn't even want to ever talk about.
My first couple of months in therapy, I said some really awful things to my therapist. Like I would immediately lash out. Like she would ask me some
No.
very
Not you.
she would ask me some very very fundamental innocuous questions
Yeah.
that I now understand because
Yeah.
of what I do, and I'd be like, "Yo, hey, who are you? Like we can end this right now."
Yeah.
Like I made such a jackass out of myself over and over. Like
Still can't believe that.
one of my favorite stories is I started going to see her, and she was a brilliant therapist. But I was already on the defensive.
Yeah.
Like I was already emotionally arms crossed,
Mhm.
leaning back in my chair, giving her the
Yeah.
cockeyed stare. And so I go in twice a week for over a month and see her every session. Never missed a session. And for over a month, twice a week, every week, never once did Iraq come up.
Mhm.
Not even my military career came up.
Mhm.
And I was there for PTSD. So as it goes, I'm getting more and more frustrated.
Mhm.
Like by that fourth week, I'm like on pins and needles.
Mhm.
So I come in and she knew I was going to film school. She's asking me about some movie that came out, and I'm barely even listening to her. Like I'm already ready to go to
Get
war.
out. Yep.
And so I'm nodding. I'm like, and I let her go for about 3 minutes, and I'm like, yeah, what are we doing here? Like, what is this? I've been here for a month. You've asked me about everything under the sun, and we haven't even talked about Iraq. And I'm
Mhm.
supposed to be here for PTSD. And she's sitting there nodding, very, very therapist like.
Mhm.
I wasn't able to get under her skin. I didn't make her mad. She was just treating me like a child, which is what I should have been treated like in that moment.
Mhm.
And she nods for a couple of minutes, and she goes, "You have a car, right?" And I said, "Yeah." Is that what we're going to talk about now?
Mhm.
And she goes, mechanics, they go to school and they learn how your car works, right?
Mhm.
And I said, yes. And she goes, can a mechanic know what's wrong with your car if they don't know how the car works in the first place? And I was like, yeah, okay. I mean, that makes sense, but I still think we should be talking about Iraq. Like I felt so stupid. And she said, we'll get there. We'll get
Mhm.
there. And she waited like 2 months before it ever came up. And then she just like dropped me. The very
Mhm.
first time she brought it up, she she started asking me very pointed questions that
Mhm.
I was not prepared to
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
And I was like, we may have to end this session early today because
Mhm.
I'm not doing real awesome
Yeah.
right now. Like digging up all those old the like you said with what you've talked about on here. Even if you remember your trauma, almost everyone kind of
Suppresses.
blunts out or suppresses certain parts of
Mhm.
it that you just don't want to deal with.
Yep.
So somebody starts doing that, picking at you and
Mhm.
bringing it to the surface, and all of a sudden you're remembering things, and you're like, oh
Mhm.
my god,
Mhm.
that was so much worse than I remembered.
That's what's hard about it for sure. Felicia's like, I don't know what to even
Yeah.
say.
Anyway, so how
I
are
don't
things
do
going with you?
therapy. Can you stop licking, please? It's really annoying.
She's talking to the dog, FYI.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Both my hands are up
She's
here.
driving me nuts.
I'm not getting canceled today. No, but I told Heather part of the reason I really wanted to come do this with you guys is just this is so important to me. I mean,
Mhm.
probably you've noticed from the way I talk that it's something I'm very very passionate about, and I also feel like it's something that we're kind of allowing to become a silent killer is trauma in people's lives. Like we're all so I don't know if embarrassed is the right word. I think there is an element of shame for a lot of trauma. Like you
Mhm.
don't want to I mean, who wants to go telling people, "Hey, you know what? I went to 14 different high schools." Like
Mhm.
that's cool, right? Like
Mhm.
it's really I don't know how much of this you got into, but like from our kindergarten year through our senior year, We never once finished the school year at the same school we started at. Whether you see that as bad or like we saw it, we were indifferent to it. It still has
We
an
were
effect.
used to it. Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter. Like one of the things I tell my clients is don't ever compare your trauma to someone else's trauma. What happened to you is the worst thing that ever happened to you. It doesn't matter if it's better or worse than what happened to her. Like I'm very big on that. And for anybody listening, please don't ever do that. Like, and what I mean by it is not the mine is so much worse than yours. What I actually mean is what happens, what I see in a lot of cases is, let's say you guys come into a group together, a trauma group, and Heather it's been on her all week. She just really wants to share about what happened to her. And what happened to her is she moved around a ton when she was a kid, and it really messed her up, and she doesn't know how to have normal social interactions, and it's starting to have a really nasty effect on her life. And let's say you had an abusive parent that would lock you in a closet and beat you every night, and you are the one who goes first. You start talking first. Her brain is instantly going to be like, well, there's no way I'm following that because I'm going to look stupid if I go and tell him I moved around a lot, which is why my trauma is just as bad as that person's. Doesn't matter what the other person's was.
It's subjective.
Yes, your
I
trauma
hate the
is
one
yours.
uppers. That's
Yeah.
the one I hate. I hate when people are like, well, mine was worse than yours. Like,
A lot of people that are
Stop
sincere
it.
about getting help are never trying to one up somebody else. They're like, a lot of times they'll shrink their stuff down. We talked about it in conversations we've had about stuff that we've gone through. We tend to dilute it.
Yeah.
We tend to water it down instead of making it worse.
there
because
are a
it's
lot
like,
of one uppers, though. Like, I've listened to it. Like, I just kind of sit back and just let people do
Yeah.
their thing. But
It's a very common, I mean, I see it a lot in my job field. In most cases, it's due to an inferiority issue. Like you feel less than, so you want everyone to look at you. And if that means telling them that you met a celebrity or that you've got a girlfriend who's a supermodel in France, or if you're in recovery and you have to tell somebody a story that clearly can't be true, but it gets everybody's eyes and ears on you for a couple of minutes, well, that's attention, right? It's still attention, and that's what's important right now. I need to get some attention because it makes me feel better about myself. That's one of the issues, the most insidious issues with trauma is what it does to us emotionally, not just the actual trauma, but the way it changes the way we think about ourselves, the way we look at who we are. Like when I was at my worst before I actually started going to treatment, I mean, you don't really know about any of this, but I got to the point where I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror because I disliked myself so much that I couldn't be alone with myself. Like I would come home from the bar that I stayed at until 2:00 in the morning, and then I would start doing my heavy drinking by myself. I was hanging out with alcoholics until 2:00 in the morning, and I was still in my right brain enough to know I'm not going to do my heavy drinking around them because they'll see that I have a problem. So I'll do it at home. And the reason I did it at home is because I couldn't be alone with my own thoughts. My thoughts were trying to kill me. And so I started realizing, oh my God, trauma can really, really, it affects areas of your life that have nothing to do with what the actual trauma was. Like for somebody that was in an abusive relationship, it's not just how they relate to other people that gets hurt. It's the way they see themselves. You know how many women I've seen come through a facility who have been in an abusive relationship and will not look you in the eye, will not speak up when they talk to you because, one, they're afraid they're going to get hit, and two, they don't feel like they deserve to be treated like other people because they were told forever that you're worthless and you don't deserve anything better. And that
you
starts
start
to
believe what
yes, you
it's
start
not
to
only
when it
told
doesn't
to
even
you.
have to be abusive in
Yeah.
the sense of hitting.
Absolutely.
Abusive and like the way people speak to you and things like that can be more traumatizing
Well,
than
abusive
the
is
actual
Absolutely.
just
physical.
physical. Yeah,
Yeah.
abusive is mental and emotional
Yeah,
as well.
let me qualify that. Emotional abuse, long term, is far more serious than physical. And I don't mean that physical abuse isn't bad, but you heal from physical abuse. The emotional abuse is the stuff that leaves the scars that last forever. I never got a hand laid on me in Iraq, but I've got stuff that I'll deal with for the rest of my life. And in most cases, especially in relationship scenarios, the emotional abuse is so much worse because if it's somebody that you love, like this guy is somebody that you love and care about, and that person starts telling you that you're worthless and you're trash, it's going to hit you in so much worse of a way than it would be if it was some person on the
Off
street.
the street, yeah.
Because you're like, this person actually knows me, so if they're saying that, it must absolutely be true, and I must be an awful person. And I mean, that cuts you in a way that other people can't really understand unless you've been through it. Like me and Heather were talking about it on the way here. It's the difference between empathy and sympathy. I can be sympathetic to a woman who's been in an abusive relationship, but I'll never understand it. Like I can imagine that's got to be awful getting hit by somebody who's bigger and stronger than you, but I can't put myself in those shoes. Whereas Heather can be like, man, it must have been terrible being over there and getting shot at and having IEDs go off. She'll never be able to like put herself in those shoes. It's the most complicated part of working in a treatment facility is there are only so many things that you can relate to. You can't relate to everything across the board. It's physically impossible. And so you end up finding yourself in a position where you just have to, what I've done is try to learn as much as you can about what everyone is dealing with. And the emotional abuse is, man, you talk about getting into a black hole. Yeah. Not only is it so destructive for you, but most people don't really open up about it. Like what you end up getting from somebody who's had emotional abuse, if you're in trauma, you'll get a surface level understanding of them, but there's certain things they're not gonna give up to you because they just don't share them with people. Like I've seen it 100 times. I know there's more going on. What's happening? Just talk to me, and you cannot get it out of them.
You put up a guard as a defense
Absolutely.
mechanism. You build up the walls around certain chambers of your mind and heart where people can't get into that.
When your trust has been violated that many times, you just don't trust anymore. You keep everybody at arm's distance. I mean, even in our childhood, like I was telling somebody at work the other day, they were like, so how many girlfriends did you have in high school? I was like, none. I was like, what?
Listen, we can't put all the blame on our child.
I was explaining that we kept our friends at a distance.
Yeah,
because
you don't get close to people.
I'm not going to invest in somebody that I know there's a very good chance I'm not going to see again in 3 months. Like it's hard living that way when you're 15 years old, you know? We've got a dance in 2 months. Are you guys coming? Don't know.
We don't know if we'll be here.
No idea.
Yeah.
We could pack up and move tomorrow night. I don't know what's going to happen.
Jay. Oh, Jay. I feel like we probably have to like wrap it up. I feel like we could continue on and on and on and on about this because just talking about like the emotional abuse and the safeguards that you put into place to protect against that, that's a whole different topic. But I appreciate
before we wrap it up though, what is your goal with what you're doing now? Like what do you want to do?
Her or me?
You.
She's not a hair salon. And we have a
calm down,
podcast.
everybody.
Excuse me.
Like,
I reach people every day.
That's
with
not
my
what I
hair
mean.
salon.
But I'm just saying, like,
hey guys.
Obviously, we're not trying to talk about Heather.
So long term, my dream, and the people that I work with know this. I would love to get to a point where I was able to go around doing public speaking engagements about addiction and recovery. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but right now, short term.
Not with that mindset.
Well, short term, me and Heather were talking about this on the way over here. I don't know how if you've seen any of the pictures or anything, but I have a YouTube and a podcast studio that I basically built myself, and I was doing it to do a sports movie podcast with a friend of mine, but I'm in a veterans group, dysfunctional veterans group is what it's called. That's not just me being super offensive, but I could be because I am one of them. It's this group. It's got about 60,000 vets in it, and it's where they go to talk about stuff that's really bothering them because only other vets are in the group. And the more I've gotten Facebook messages from that group, the more I've realized that I think I'm going in the wrong direction. And rather than being another podcast that talks about how bad Coach Carter was or something like that, maybe what I need to be doing is kind of what it seems like you guys are kind of leaning into. And that's starting to lean into this area where I'm not saying I'm going to change the world, but if I can if I can help a veteran, I mean, you guys know what 22 a day is, right?
Mhm.
It's the number of veterans that commit suicide or die from overdose every single day. If I was able to put even a dent in that number, like I told one of my friends, what I would love to get to, going back to the sympathy versus empathy thing. It took me a long time to get to where I could be this open about all this stuff because the military taught me to absolutely not do this. Military tells you suck it up, drive on, don't ever admit that you're hurt or weak. You keep pushing until you die or you complete the mission.
Mhm.
And so you've got hundreds of thousands of vets out there who won't go seek help for their mental health issues because they were told you do not ever do that. And so in a perfect world, I would love to get to a place where I could make YouTube videos and do a podcast where maybe a veteran who's never heard about what he's going through gets to hear about it. And even more importantly, what I would really love to see, I would love to see vets who were able to pull their wife into the room in a relationship that's starting to fail, or pull their son into the room because their son is talking about leaving home because he can't understand what's wrong with his dad and his dad won't talk to him. And the wife thinks they may have to get a divorce because she just can't understand why he acts the way he does, and it doesn't make any sense. If I could get to a point doing these videos where he could pull his wife into the room, sit her down in front of a computer, and go, listen to him. He's going to tell you what's going on with me. If I could get to that point, I mean, not to sound pie in the sky, but if I could be involved in somebody saving a relationship or repairing a relationship with their kid, I think that would mean everything. It's not about, you know, am I ever going to get a YouTube button or am I going to have 100,000 podcast subscribers? If I was able to keep another guy like my friend from ending up dying in his apartment alone with no one around to care about him, that would mean the world to me. So that's the short term. I'm going to keep working in addiction because I really love what I do, but my focus is I want to try to get this show off the ground so that maybe just maybe, knock on wood, I might be able to help a few veterans not end up 6 feet under with their families trying to figure out what they could have done different to save them.
When do you plan on starting?
uh, I've got everything. I moved into a house recently, and I'm trying to figure out how to set up the studio. I had the entire thing set up for a sports podcast. I had banners and all kinds of stuff printed up, so it doesn't really work. Like I can't be like, "Hey, just wanted to talk to you about mental health," and behind me there's a banner that says the Sports Movie Podcast, where we talk about bad movies. And I'm like, don't mind that.
Yeah, just
We're here to
ignore
talk
that.
about really serious things. So I've got to kind of redesign a couple of things, and I'm working on getting like all the domain names, which I haven't come up.
So by 2026?
Come
on, you got to put a date on it.
I'm hoping in the next few months to have it
Okay.
off the ground. I haven't been able to come up with a clever name for it yet, so that's what I'm working on right now. I had a great name for my sports podcast. We were only going to do movies that are streaming, so like Hulu, Netflix, Amazon, and we were going to do bad movies, so it was going to be called What a Streaming Pile. And I was like, man, that is absolutely genius.
So is it sports movies was what you're going to base it off of? Okay.
Well,
Because
we
you
were
keep saying sports, but then you said movies, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't understand what
we
you
were
mean.
we were gonna do reviews of only sports movies. So Hoosiers, Blue Chips,
I've never
hit
even
the-
seen it.
hit the fringes and maybe do like some
I've
Top
seen all of
Gun.
them, courtesy of my brother.
Yeah, that's one thing about our childhood. Like no matter, we talk a lot about the ugly parts of our childhood, but I got very lucky. I've posted this on Facebook. All of our friends, we've got over 100 mutual friends on our Facebook page. They all know this. Even what we went through, I consider myself, and this is for all you guys listening to their show, I consider myself very lucky. Out of that deal, I got somebody that is one of my best friends lifelong, and I've actively been able to be almost like a secondary father figure to my nephews and my niece. I have a relationship with those kids that a lot of uncles don't get to have with the kids in their life, and for that, I'm willing to deal with some triggers and some trauma because I'm getting to be a part of their life in a way that our uncles weren't. Like, we didn't really have close relationships with a lot of our extended family, and so it was really important to me. So when I get a text message from her son who's 18, thanking me for the part I played in his life when he was growing up. And then I'm sitting at work going, yeah, no, it's cool. It's whatever. Makai's sending me a message, dork. Like, he needs to get off my back and quit texting me.
Ask for something.
We have to be thankful for those things
Yeah.
that have happened, because that's what develops who
It
we
does.
are as a person, regardless
where
of
the
which
strength-
direction you go,
Yep.
what path you take, how many times you've taken turns, U-turns, 360s, whatever it might be. All of that develops who you are.
I had a horrible week this last week. Me and one other guy had to move 30 years worth of stuff out of a recovery facility, and I was in a mood. And then I got out here. The flight got delayed. It was raining. I was pretty pissy, and all of it disappeared when my 10-year-old nephew opened the front door after being with his dad for a few days and was surprised to see me. The look on his face, all the rainy weather, the flight delay, all the moving stuff, all of it was gone instantly, because it made me feel so good that he was that happy to see me and I was that happy to see him. So that's been one of my great gifts in life. I've been there for multiple of the births. I unfortunately, every single one of those kids I've changed at least one diaper on. Like her oldest, the 22-year-old, he'll get big for his britches sometimes, talking about something, and I'll be like, bro, I changed your diapers. You're not
Did you
gonna
do
say.
the key uncle thing where you put the shirt over your nose when you do it? Like
I almost got hit a couple of times with the urine stream, but I never actually got targeted. Actually, Cal was the worst for that. I don't know how his diet affected him, but man, that kid could drop some bombs.
He's
when,
gonna
when
love
he
you
was an
saying
infant.
that.
He'll appreciate it later in life.
We'll make sure we clip that.
He's
Yes.
a good
You,
kid.
William.
That's actually one of the fun things is I don't know if Heather's told you this. Me and her son's father were both big comic book nerds, obsessive comic book nerds. So she was pregnant and her will was weak, and we were able to convince her to name their son after Superman. And I figure we either did one of two things. He's either going to thank us later in life because he's going to work so hard to live up to being named after Superman, or he's going to absolutely despise us because we named him after Superman and he got bullied. I don't see any middle ground. Either one or the other is going to happen. Like, my name is Jason, and there's a reason I go by Jay. I grew up during the Friday the 13th crap.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Oh, I thought about it every Friday the 13th. Yeah, our other...
I make sure that he thinks about it
Her-
every Friday the
her-
13th.
Oh, that's funny. That Justin's dad. So my husband's dad's name is Jason. And he
Mhm.
goes by Jay, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, now I got to put that together.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a family group thread, and every Friday the 13th, I get real fun messages from her and my other sister because they think it's the funniest
Oh, that's
funniest thing in the world.
That's hilarious.
It is.
I'm gonna send him a nice little like GIF on
Yes.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fun side story that's a little less heavy comparatively to what we've been talking
This
about.
is how we roll. We start with the heavy, and then we go into
Yeah.
like the laughing and the giggling and the.
So I worked at Blockbuster for years before I went in the military. My favorite job I've ever had. And I worked with one of my best friends, and our manager, she had a twisted sense of humor. His name is Michael, and mine's Jason. And you have to wear these gigantic name badges that are printed with your legal name. So there was no way around it. Mine said Jason, and his said Michael. Every Halloween for 4 years, she scheduled the two of us to work the closing shift. So 100 times every Halloween, some drunk guy would come in, get his two movies. Jason and Michael, where's Freddy? And, oh, that's really good. You're the first one.
Hey, I
No
can
one-
relate. I have Fylisha, and I worked
Oh,
at a
yeah,
bar
yeah.
during the Bye Fylisha
Well,
stuff.
yeah.
So, like, I totally understand.
The first time she came in the salon and was leaving, I was like, bye, Felicia. And then I was like, oh, I didn't mean it that way.
I didn't take it that way, but
There is nothing worse than having a name that can be weaponized when
Oh.
you're a kid.
Really? Really?
I don't know. What are you talking about? I called you Heb your entire
No.
childhood.
Liar.
well, now you got to
How are
put
you gonna
context to
lie
this.
right on the podcast?
I'm objecting to whatever it is you're about to say.
I had some struggles with my weight in my childhood.
Oh yeah, didn't you say he called you Porky or something
No,
like that?
think about
Hefty.
Heather.
Heifer. That was it. I knew there was something. You mentioned it the last one, actually.
Listen, I said we were super close growing up. You don't develop a close relationship without a couple of punches being thrown somewhere in that relationship.
Literally and figuratively.
I can't say anything. I was just talking about how I bullied my brother. So.
Oh, we tangled. I think it was probably around 13, 14 when we started working, where we finally started realizing maybe we shouldn't be trying to kill each other at every turn. So
my family still tries.
Oh, hey, we've got plenty of family members that will still tangle at the drop of a hat. Me and Heather have just stopped trying to do that. I keep telling her, so her middle kids are exactly where we were. Age, everything. They're separated by 1 year, and they have fought like cats and dogs. And I keep telling them, you guys are going to end up being close. No, we're not.
I just thought about you talking about AJ
and Van.
That's where the Porky came from, right? Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
they're savage.
I was like, I knew it was said somewhere.
And that's why it bothered me, because I was like, I had a brother who called me animal names when we were growing up.
Look, let's face it. There is nothing on this planet more savage than a middle schooler. They are the meanest, most savage human beings on earth, because somehow they will say whatever's in their head, and they also know what you're self-conscious about.
Like your triggers without knowing.
Because that's the worst time in your life. You're going through all those changes and stuff.
Hormones.
So like there's so much to make fun of each other to make yourself feel better because you're going through all that stuff too. So that's why they're so ruthless.
There's a comedian named John Mulaney who said, middle schoolers are so savage. I am 32, and if I see a group of middle schoolers coming up the street, I will cross the road to avoid them, so that one of them doesn't go, look at that man, he got feminine hips. And then I'm like, oh, that's the thing I'm conscious about.
I don't know. It might be worse, though. A 2-year-old, like, just starting to talk. Oh. They're the most honest. Like, those young little toddlers, I don't know if it's 2, but that age.
A toddler will look at you and be like, why are you so ugly? And then do a cartwheel.
Yeah.
Cal was horrible when he was like 5. Yeah. Cal would say awful stuff. Like, all the boys played football. And we'd go out to the football games, and Cal would, no, he doesn't know what he's talking about. You're not fat and bald. He doesn't know what he's saying. And we obviously did not say any of that, and he's just parroting what we said in the car. That didn't happen either. Let's just all go our own separate ways.
They say the truth, and if you can't handle it, don't hang out with them.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a funny kid, but man, he could cut you in ways that left you with some trauma.
The best compliments you can get is
the
same too, because it's an honest compliment.
Yep.
I'm not getting that compliment just because you feel like I need that compliment. Yep. It's true.
Yeah, the last time I came out to visit, Cal walked in. I was watching TV.
Cal is William, FYI.
Yeah.
I caught on.
Okay. Yeah. Most people are like, what's he talking about?
He came in. I was just sitting on the couch. All the kids, they're all teenagers. So I come to visit. And like I said yesterday, I told AJ, I love these visits. I get to make these wonderful memories of sitting on the couch while you're all in your rooms playing video games. These are the memories I'll cherish forever. And so I was sitting downstairs watching TV, and Cal walked in and sat down right next to me. He leaned up against me, and he goes, I really missed you, Uncle Jay. I love you. And I was like, ooh, don't cry in front of the kid. Don't cry in front of the kid.
He's still young enough that he wants to do that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, he's getting close, though.
I give him 2 more years.
Yep.
I can see the edges right now.
He's what, 10?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He hits middle school.
Yep, he'll be done.
Like, he's getting cool now. Like, I saw it. It's the first time I've seen it with him. I've seen it with all the others, but it's the first time I've seen it with him. When I went to pick him up yesterday, I'm standing out there by the tree, just waiting, and I see him, and he's with like 3 of his friends, and he slow plays it. Like, he's doing the cool walk and hanging out with his buddies, and he literally waited until his friends turned and started walking off the other direction. And then he started bounding toward me, super excited to see me. I was like, did this dude just straight cold shoulder me so he didn't look like a nerd in front of his friends? I was like, I don't like this because he's the one that's supposed to stay that age forever. Like I told her, the two, Cal cannot grow up and Nevaeh needs to stop growing, period. She's supposed to be 11. I don't want to. She posted a picture the other day and it made me like physically agitated. I was like, no. I can deal with the boy is getting older. Nevaeh needs to just stop it because I'm not cool with this.
Too bad you can't control it.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, it was
Gotta let it
different. It was different with Heather. Like I got in lots of fights in high school over people who didn't know how to speak without saying something stupid. But that was, it's your sister. It's a completely different situation. With Nevaeh, the second I saw that picture, I was like, oh, I don't like this. She looks like a woman in this picture. Like that's not cool because that means some dude is going to come up and say something to her, and I don't like that either.
You don't have kids, right? So these are like
basically,
as close as it gets.
Yep. And it's like I told her the only thing that warms the cockles of my heart is that most guys are going to be afraid to approach Nevaeh because they know who her brothers are, and like I always make
not brothers, just AJ because he's so big.
I always make the joke like I picture in my head like AJ's 17, Nevaeh's 16. They're at school. She's wearing some cheerleading outfit for a game that's coming up that night, and she's very prissy, so I can imagine her with the bow in her hair and everything. She's at her locker, and some dude walks up. Hey, girl, you look good. What's your name? Nevaeh Clayton. And he's like, Clayton. Wait, it's your brother AJ? Yeah, that's my brother. You know what? I just remembered. I got a thing I got to do. I'm sorry I even bothered you. Please don't let AJ know I came over here and talked to you. We're all good. Like, that's the only thing that makes me feel good.
Have that happen already, but we probably should wrap this up.
Yeah.
Speaking of Nevaeh, she's blowing my phone up.
So.
Well, listen, I appreciate you guys letting me do this with you. I enjoyed it. I don't know how it was for you guys, but I had a good time.
I want to, once you get your podcast going next time you're in town, I want to talk about that some more and like really like dive into that a little bit and you getting started and how it's going and all that stuff. So, because it's a cool concept and I want to want to promote it a little bit.
Yeah. Once we get done here, I'll show you. Since you've got this, I'll show you what mine looks like. I'm pretty proud of it.
This is a starter. This is only the third one we've done, so it's still in the process of coming together. Like, I got backdrops and stuff coming, and like, so
it's
getting there.
It's a good. You're starting off way ahead of where most people are. So you're doing pretty well.
We started in the salon with what we had, and then we worked our
lights or.
And the lighting in there is like so pink that it like makes you kind of different color.
I've done more than enough recording in her salons plural to know that the lighting can be an issue. Like I have, so I had to reformat my hard drive a couple of weeks ago on my laptop, and I had to put all the stuff back on it from my old computer. And I was like, "What is this file? There's like 6 gigs in this file," and I opened it. And it was just videos of you with saran wrap around people's hair and washing people's hair and Courtney in a chair. And I was like, oh my God, I have
the old salon.
I have video going all the way back to the old salon with what's his name in the salon. Like that's how old these videos are. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That was old.
Yeah, I've got those. I've got the ones from this one. I was like, oh my God, I've got more stuff of yours on my computer than I have of mine. Which is tragic.
Which means you need to work on your stuff so you have some more stuff.
All right.
We are going to wrap this episode up. I appreciate my brother coming on. The topic of addiction obviously is something that's really important in our family and to both of us. There are resources available to help if you're struggling. If you need any advice or you need to reach out, we're here.
And put yourself first. For anybody listening to this, put yourself first. I tell all my clients, anybody in your life who gets offended that you're putting yourself first when you're going through this kind of thing needs to think about where they're at. Because when you're dealing with this kind of stuff, it takes everything you have in you to do it properly. Yeah. Put yourself first, worry about yourself, and you can take the steps that you need to move forward with your life and make some positive changes.
You have to put yourself first so you can be there for other people. That's the only way. And no matter where you're at, whether it's addiction, no matter, like,
tell
what
my
you're
clients
dealing
all the
with.
time, you guys have both been on an airplane. What does the flight attendant tell you? What are you supposed to do if the air mask ever drops out of the ceiling?
Take care of yours
Yep,
first.
Put yours on first. Can't help someone else if you're dying.
Yep.
So that's basically the bottom line.
All right, guys. Until next time. Bye.
See you later.